All right, the plan is to test out some 60 series GPUs starting with the GTX 1060. I've already tested out an RTX 5090 in this game, and uninterestingly, it ran it well. It's a lot more exciting to see what happens if we go below the minimum spec. The min spec in this game is the RTX 2060 according to the system requirements, so naturally we went one notch below that with the 1060 to see what happens. And of course I am on the low settings to give us a chance. And we're getting around 50 FPS here, we can go ahead and start the averages. And yes, this is low settings 1080p, but it is actually a native 1080p. We're on the low preset. You want to look at the advanced settings, you can here. We are not using any upscaling at the moment, 100% resolution scaling. So yeah, we are actually getting kind of mid-50s. It is certainly not an amazingly competitive experience, but it is a playable experience, which is actually surprising me a little bit. I wasn't sure what to expect, considering we are below the minimum here. And the 1060 is getting, you know, what are we, close to 10 years old now at this point? It's certainly not a spring chicken, if that's the term here. All right, am I gonna revive me here? No. All right, here we're gonna respawn. So yeah, I like I said, I started out at the low settings because I didn't think Ultra made any sense at all on this hardware. But I was honestly not actually expecting to be this close to 60 FPS at native resolution 1080p low settings. And you know what? The game at low settings looks okay. Like it's not super ugly or anything. Obviously it looks even better maxed out, but yeah, this is so far completely playable, even if it's not an amazing experience. Now in a minute here, I think what we'll try doing is lowering the resolution scaling using, we can't use DLSS on a GTX card. They don't have the tensor cores that started with the RTX series with the 2060. Do I not have like a rocket thing? I think only certain classes get those, right? Anyway, been a long time since I played Battlefield. Like I said, I wasn't that into 2042, so I benchmarked it when it came out, and that was about it. So I rusty on the, oh geez, definitely rusty on the Battlefield skills here. I'm not sure being less rusty would have helped me spawning in front of a tank. Maybe I would have known better than to spawn in front of a tank. Let's spawn in front of the tank again. Anyway, getting shot in the face with a tank is about what I expected. Oh, okay, or ran over by a tank is about what I expected in the performance of the 1060 here. And to be clear, this is the 6 GB version of the 1060. So if you have the 3 GB version, I cannot say it would be doing this well, considering we are clearly using more than 3 GB of VRAM. Seems to be a little bit under 5 for allocation, and a little under 4 for per process usage. So definitely think the 6 GB version is necessary here, even at the low settings. I think I saw an enemy there. What do we got? But yeah, in a second here, I might try out lowering the resolution scaling, seeing if we can get over 60, which would be nice. I don't know this map at all, so I'm just running in circles, apparently. But there's a bad guy. And I didn't kill him. Because apparently I'm just, it's the hardware's fault. See, if I was on a better graphics card, we would have got that kill for sure. All right, we are going to change the graphics settings here, but just with the resolution scaling, because we're already kind of at the minimum settings. There's only so far we can put this. Let's go down to FSR, but let's go quality. Or should we try XDS? I think FSR will be more performant. We'll try FSR Quality and see what that gets us. We're not going to do frame generation, since that doesn't really help responsiveness, which is the main reason we want a higher frame rate in a multiplayer game. Let me spawn in over here, see what happens. Okay, 1080p FSR Quality. Got a little frame time spike right there for a second. Okay, off to a real great start here, but we can't blame the hardware for my my lack of skill. Can I not spawn in there? Gotta wait. Okay, we're capping the place. Here we are. All right, yeah, it looks like we are around 60 frames per second. I just ran into the same place I just died, and I'm just trying to get out of here. I'm just dumb. Hey, I got the kill with the grenade there, though, right? That's the important thing. So yeah, we are around 60 frames per second using quality level upscaling. Now, let's say we wanted to abandon the game looking nice and instead just want maximum performance. So let's try FSR Performance mode, upscaling on the 1060, and see how that goes. And I'll be a little more careful about just running out here. Let me reset my frame rate averages, though. I think we're in the kind of the mid-70s now. Okay. Aha, there he is. We got him that time. All right. Oh. You know, we got to try to win this game. I mean, it's pretty bad, though, right? We're getting absolutely destroyed. Don't blame it on me. I'm just changing my graphics settings. Okay. Oh boy. Yeah. Not doing well. Okay, but we are around mid 70 FPS range. Again, this is low settings FSR performance mode at 1080p output, so it is what it is. But it is playable. Now, the other thing I will mention, though, is that I am not on a period correct CPU for this 1060. We're on a 9800X3D CPU. Obviously, that's an unrealistic pairing, but the idea here is to isolate the performance of the graphics card. But I would certainly expect a CPU from this vintage to also be having some trouble. Is that that's the enemy there, isn't it? Okay. Oh, geez. Okay. So yeah, this is isolating the GPU's performance. If you're on a older CPU, that might cause its own issues. Ah, they got me. Okay, I think we can call that good for the 1060. It is, if you're able to pair it with a system that can match, is able to get a 60, 70 FPS experience, even if it's at low settings with a lot of upscaling. You can play the game. Let's try out a 2060. All right, I've put in the RTX 2060. This is the Asus Dual, and we are still at low settings. I mean, let's double check we've all got it. But it's low settings, 1080p, but I think I'm back to native resolution. You're out low preset. There you go. We are at 1080p resolution. And again, if I double check the resolution scaling, we currently have upscaling turned off and are just at 100% resolution native TAA. Again, this being an RTX card now, we should be able to try out DLSS as a way to boost frame rates, and if performance is good enough, we might even take a look at 1440p monitor output with DLSS scaling. Yeah, it's looking completely playable in the mid-80s right now. Looks like 88 FPS, 89 FPS average so far. And I don't know how the different maps compare relative to each other. So this being a different map means that we probably shouldn't try to say exactly what percent faster the 2060 is compared to the 1060 that we just tested, since that was in a different map. So do keep that in mind. But certainly better performance. Like that's not something to question. The question would just maybe be like, by exactly what percentage, you know, enough better that, if you weren't going for the more competitive frame rates, you could probably shoot for higher graphic settings on the 2060 for sure. But I think most people are going to be shooting for at least that kind of, this 90 FPS-ish range if you can get it on a competitive type game. So I think the low settings do still make the most sense here. But this is promising enough that maybe when we move up to the 3060, that maybe we should test out some higher settings. Is there any point actually shooting at those tanks in this version of the game? Not quite sure how much damage it actually is going to do. Anyway, so yeah, it looks like we're around 90 FPS at 1080p low settings. Let's go ahead and change the settings before we spawn back in. So You know, before we go up to 1440p, which I think is actually pretty doable here, let's turn down the render resolution a bit to try to get some higher frame rate. So I'm going to go with upscaling to DLSS quality now, and let's see if we can get beyond that kind of 90-ish FPS range that we were getting a second ago. Oh no, we're losing that point. I can't spawn in there, can I? Oh well, here we go. Let's go here. All right, looking like we are closer to 100 frames per second now going with DLSS quality. Again, important to mention that I'm isolating for GPU performance in this video. So if you do not have a high-end CPU, Battlefield games can be very heavy on the CPU, so you might need to make sure your CPU can keep up. Notice the in-game performance metrics, which you can turn on in the advanced graphics settings, are showing in the top right corner of the screen. I'm about to get sniped, aren't I? Where you can see the CPU frame rate versus the GPU frame rate and all that, and can be somewhat helpful for identifying the bottleneck, although not always perfect here. I think we have more room for scaling on the CPU. If I turn down the settings, that guy was trying to hide. All right. I'm trying to play the game and focus on the frame rate counter, so it's a little hard to do both, but occasionally we'll still manage to get a kill here. All right. Capturing the base. Where are we getting shot from? Get him. Get him. That looked like the flash from a sniper, but I guess it was just a light. Wasn't there a guy up here? Where'd he go? Yeah, certainly looking like around 100 frames per second. A little bit over 106 average right now using the DLSS quality. Next time we die, how about we actually shoot for 1440p? Maybe for now, I'll actually just go with what if we went to DLSS Performance mode upscaling on the 1080p screen, just be like, okay, we've already got everything to low. What if we also use DLSS as aggressively as possible? Just see what sort of frame rates are possible on this GPU if we're looking to maximize performance rather than visuals. Looks like around 113 frames per second or so now, so we didn't get a whole lot more. Am I gonna get sniped running through here? Find out. Oh man, the shots coming out of that helicopter there, I don't know what you'd call it, this flash at the low settings certainly didn't look super amazing, but most of the graphics hold up pretty okay. There was a big frame time spike right there though. If you guys look at the frame time graph, and I definitely felt that one, so not quite sure what that was about. All right, pushing forward, not a lot going on. Maybe we should take this as a chance to switch over to 1440p. I was gonna do it when I die. Okay, we're starting to get into some combat here. I should die very quickly. There we go. All right. Okay, so let's switch over to actually doing 1440p resolution. And let's start with native 1440p, which means we need to go back into the advanced graphics settings and turn upscaling off. So upscaling off, native 1440p, but it is the low settings. Let's spawn in on our tank here. Okay, 1440p, native low settings. Looks like we're close to 60 FPS average, actually. You know, considering they listed this as the minimum GPU on the system requirements, I feel like they kind of maybe overdid it on the system requirements. Like, you could certainly get by with something lower than this to actually just barely play the game. So it seems like, at least if this map is indicative at all, seems like they certainly, I think, maybe overshot the minimum specs, but I think it's better to overpromise and underdeliver on these things, perhaps. So that's why it's good to test it out. So, because again, native 1440p seems to be performing reasonably okay there. But obviously, I think a lot of people with this hardware on a 1440p display would be relying a lot on DLSS. So let's go to DLSS Quality. So we're now DLSS Quality, 1440p monitor, low preset. And looks like that's scaling us up to around 70 frames per second. And I'm getting sniped at. I hear the bullets whizzing past my ears. Yeah, this is completely playable at 1440p. Obviously, sure, would I like 500 frames per second? Absolutely. Is this playable? Absolutely. Ah, sniper. No. Okay. All right, so let's try going a little more aggressive on the DLSS. Let's go to DLSS Balanced. Oh, I got resurrected. Okay, so DLSS Balanced, not seeming to get us a lot more performance, kind of more mid-70s-ish. Also, we're not doing an identical, exact location in combat to where we were a second ago. Maybe they'll pick me back up, I don't know, but we'll try going to DLSS Performance. Okay, so on a 1440p display, we could go DLSS Performance, low settings. Still kind of looking like mid-70s is sort of the best we can do. We got higher when we were on the 1080p, DLSS Performance, obviously. But for the 2060, which is certainly getting up there in years, I don't hate the performance here or anything. All right. Try to push in here. I think next death we're switching to a 3060. So let's just run in here and die. I do not have a lot of bullets. I have to switch to this. If I get this kill, it's kind of a little sad on that guy. Okay, I didn't get the kill. All right, okay, because that was bad. All right, let's switch to a 3060. All right, I've now put in the RTX 3060 12GB, and we're starting out on the low settings, 1080p native again. This GPU might be more appropriate for testing out some higher settings as well, especially since it has more than 6GB of VRAM. So I think we'll probably start out seeing what kind of performance we can get here at low settings, and then look at scaling things up a little bit. Okay, looking like, let's get the averages going, but around 100 frames per second at 1080p low settings, native res. Once again, a reminder that if your CPU can't keep up, you won't hit these frame rates. So this is isolating GPU performance by keeping in a high-end CPU so we can test the limits of the GPUs without worrying about what part of the system is limiting the performance. That's the overall idea. Okay, let's throw grenades at this guy. Ah, he's getting out of the way. Okay, I'm getting shot. Who's shooting me? Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna win that fight. And I got sniped. Good time to change graphic settings. All right, so at 1080p, let's go ahead and kick on upscaling and just go to performance mode upscaling. Just be like, okay, so if we just do not care about the image quality, we're just how much performance can we get, that's what we're looking at here. So looking like around 120-ish frames per second. We didn't gain a lot by going down to performance mode DLSS, if we're being honest. But that appears to be about what we can do. Okay, it's very foggy. What is happening? Oh, there's a tank. Okay, so I'm Definitely dead. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do is now move up to 1440p before we waste any more time. So let's go to 1440p. We'll go back to native resolution first, and then we'll of course test out upscaling, and then we'll test out some maybe higher graphic settings. But it looks like the 3060 is good for around 70 frames per second at native 1440p, but at low settings, of course. And yeah, so how about we kick on some DLSS? Let's try out DLSS Quality or Balanced. Let's go with DLSS Balanced for 1440p. Seems good. And that's helping out quite a bit. We're now around 90 frames per second. Let's see if that holds up if we get into some kind of combat. I don't know this map. How many streets are there to go through before I actually find like the objective? And then I'm dead. Okay, but yeah, it looks like around 90 frames per second. So it looks completely usable at 1440p low settings as well. And I think let's just try out performance mode DLSS just to get as much performance as possible out of 1440p before I quit the game and apply some higher graphic settings. You do need to restart when applying the max settings. A lot of these settings will apply while in-game, but just to get the most accurate performance numbers, we would want to... Apparently I'm out of the combat area, despite there being an enemy out there. That's... okay, whatever. Or am I just getting shot because I'm leaving the combat area? I don't know, I'm confused. Let's not overthink it. Okay, we are going... yeah, it looks like around 100 frames per second, but more like mid-90s. And that'll be a good time to stop. So I'll switch it to ultra settings and then restart. All right, I've put on ultra settings and restarted the game, loaded into a match. This is 1080p native ultra settings. Let's go ahead and double check everything actually applied. We are on, again, the ultra preset there, and we are looking at, gotta go back to the graphics bit here, 1080p resolution, and if we check advanced, we are on upscaling turned off, 100% resolution, native TAA. So, ultra settings, 1080p, native TAA. There's a guy I should probably be, like, fighting here. And I'm getting shot. Got him. Okay. Looks like we're close to 70 frames per second. It's hard to stare at my frame rate counter and fight at the same time, though. And I'll take that as my excuse for why he killed me there. I was also reloading. But, okay, so around, yeah, mid-60s it looks like at ultra settings. Let's go ahead and try out DLSS Quality. So DLSS Quality mode, so 1080p ultra settings, DLSS Quality. Although we're spawned into a different area now. So not completely apples to apples testing. Okay. Shots being fired here. Okay, well, we traded. Anybody save me? Save me! Nobody's gonna save me, are they? Looks like we're around 70 frames per second with DLSS Quality there. And let's go ahead and try out 1440p a little bit before we go. So 1440p, let's leave it on DLSS Quality though. So we're at 1440p DLSS Quality ultra settings. Looks like we are kind of mid-60s here. Let's see if we get into combat and can maintain that. Definitely dipping below 60 a little bit at times, but not badly. And I died. Let's try switching to DLSS Balanced. which again, with newer DLSS models, I think looks completely fine at 1440p. So we're going to be DLSS Balanced 1440p monitor, but ultra graphics settings. Another little frame time spike there. Overall, the frame time graphs feels pretty smooth in this game, but yeah, I have got those occasional little blips. Uh-oh. Got him. Okay. Can we capture the thing? And then probably call it good. It is getting rather late where I'm at here, so I will definitely be testing more GPUs in the morning. So I think that's what we're going to do. So we got the 1060, 2060, and 3060 tested here. It seems actually playable on all of them. Obviously better the more powerful you go. And of course, you need to make sure your CPU can keep up. But yeah, very, very playable at 1080p and even 1440p if we use DLSS. And yeah, tomorrow I'll test out some more graphics cards. You can let me know in the comments section what you're interested in. And tomorrow means in about 8 hours, I'm going to go sleep. Anyway, I hope all you guys have an excellent day.